Hello and welcome to Cage Minds MMA show. I'm Mika Frankl. Keep up with what we're doing at cageminds.com and check out the social media. Cage Minds Combat Sports News on Facebook, Cage Minds _CSN on Instagram, and it's at Cage Minds MMA on Twitter. I got my own Twitter. It's at Frankl Mika. I also got a pair of other podcasts I'm a part of. The After Hours Podcast Network with Michael Carlisle. We do MMA After Hours and Pro Wrestling After Hours. Now you can support Cage Minds and our great photographers by purchasing some merchandise over at nmproshop.com. We got a lot to get to this week, and we're going to start out with Friday night in Miami. It was a combat sports doubleheader. Bellator 271, the main event, women's featherweight title fight, and still the world champion Cris Cyborg, 92 seconds, a right hook, puts down Sinead Kavanagh, and the follow-up ground and pound is all that was needed. It was a showcase fight and went as well. Cyborg came out from the get-go looking to the finish, looking to be impressive, looking to, as I said, just eat a meal like a savage beast, and took care of Kavanagh in fashion. Now, the statement was made and well received because cage side was Kayla Harrison, and I believe that's who Cyborg was making this statement to. Now, it is interesting to note that Kat Zingano has finally emerged on social media, tweeting out, "Send me a location." Looks like Zingano is ready for Cyborg, and as far as the current Bellator roster, that's the best fight that Scott Coker can make. But Coker made no bones about it. His focus is to sign Kayla Harrison in free agency. The only women's lightweight champion that the PFL has ever known. Greatest Olympic judoka that the sport has ever known is now a free agent. And to the PFL and to Bellator, Harrison is a needle mover. She is the face of the promotion for the PFL. Can't change my mind in an argument on that one. For Bellator, you're looking at making the biggest fight you possibly can. You brought in Cyborg to make a flourishing featherweight division. Now, while she's been a killer attraction, big fights have not really occurred. There was the dethroning of Julia Budd. We now do have the emergence, like I said, of Kat Zingano on social media, and that's one of the fights that we do want to see Cyborg in. And the other, besides a Nunez rematch, is Kayla Harrison. Heading towards free agency, it's still going to bring up the question, what is most important to Kayla? Is it immediate financial security? I feel like Viacom can outbid. That's not Bellator, Viacom. If the parent company wants to open up the checkbook, give Scott Coker the ability to go all New York Yankees, Los Angeles Dodgers, and just flat out bid the competition, they could probably do so, because I don't see Harrison's value being the same for the UFC, and the UFC is probably the only one that can financially match what Bellator could offer. But if Viacom doesn't okay such a move, that $1 million a year world championship fight in the PFL is pretty alluring. Yes, maybe you don't want to, at a certain point, go back through the season. How many times do I got to win the championship to just be the champion? But $1 million is quite the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. We hit now one of the most interesting free agency periods that we have. We know the importance of Harrison to the PFL, and now Scott Coker and Cyborg herself have affirmed the value that they see Harrison as an opponent or a possible building block to the future. Now things are getting interesting, folks. The other fight that I really wanted to touch on from the main card, an interesting contender was going to be born into the men's featherweight division, and it's Aaron Pico, thudding body shots from the clinch, takedowns at will, and utter control. You saw a different level to Aaron Pico's game coming together against a Justin Gonzalez had been battle tested, coming up through the ranks, who had been in dogfights in 5-round wars, could not handle what Aaron Pico brought to the cage. What does that tell us? That the move to Jackson Wink, the slight slowing and recalibrating of his opponents, and the slower start, the more boxing-esque build to Aaron Pico's career, the results are in the pudding, and the results are quite well. What does this do for the featherweight division? AJ McKee is the champion. Where does the champion go? The champion had already talked about wanting to continue his war with Patricio up at 155. Patricio vacates that title. Patricio is now the champion. That doesn't mean it's out of the question that AJ McKee goes up a weight class. I'm pretty sure at this point, though, Scott Coker would like to have a defending champion at featherweight and probably would like to talk McKee into solidifying himself as the champion with a defense before thinking about moving on divisions. Pedro Carvalho just beat Daniel Weishaul. Mads Burnell is 3-0 in the division and on a 7-fight win streak overall, coming off of a win over Emmanuel Sanchez. So Carvalho and Burnell, I still think, are ahead of Aaron Pico. Puts Pico kind of in a conversation to maybe get one of those losses off his record. Well, not really off his record, but get his payback. Cash a receipt. Owes one to Adam Borish. Borish is now on a 3-fight win streak. Pico is on a 5-fight win streak. 4 of them finishes. I think that's the route to go, as Burnell Carvalho could be in line for AJ McKee. I think that he lays off a pit bull for a little bit, defends the title, then maybe we move on. Now the Bellator Prelims, we had to see some prospects challenge. How would they answer those challenges? Well, in the case of Steve Mowry, it was taking down Rakeem Cleveland, getting to side control, and for his 3rd straight fight, the victory comes by the Kimura. Now 10-0 for Mowry. We've seen it. Saeed Soma, Steve Mowry, Davian Franklin, Gokhan Sabiak. The Bellator heavyweight division is starting to see some infusion of this youth that they have on the roster, getting these rankings, and I can't wait to see these young guys getting matchups against the legitimate contenders, some of these guys that are a little bit older. Now in another crazy finish, this is the finish of the night from Bellator. Sorry, Cyborg, I know you're devastating, but it's expected devastation. This was unexpected. Roman Ferraro, we didn't know what to expect out of his 5-0 record. He's taking on Robert Turnquist. A left hook stuns Turnquist. Fernando says, "I'm going to go get you," and a flying knee for the knockout. It's a switch jumping knee, and he called it, "I'm going to come get you," and then goes and gets his opponent. How awesome was that? Also, Cody Law, he advances to 5-0. It's a TKO with ground and pound of Colton Hamill. It was a beautiful technique from Law to free his wrist, come over the top, and land slashing elbows, some devastating stuff. And Scott Coker, once in front of the media, informed them that he will have something special planned for the next Fedor retirement fight. It sounds like we will have another Fedor retirement fight in Moscow. This is only the 3rd or 4th. I know we're resound to it, but if you didn't already assume it, Fedor is the kiss of MMA. I don't know how many of these retirement fights we're going to go through, but it sounds like Bellator is not done with the fun. And talking about the Bellator heavyweight division and Fedor. Fedor beats Timothy Johnson. So if we look up, the fight I want to see is the guy right ahead of Fedor. I want to see Fedor Chet Congo. They're around the same age, and Congo is a guy that could really benefit from that kind of name on his resume. From getting an opportunity that never came along in the UFC, a world-class fight, a top 5 fight. Could be a big moment for Cheick Kongo. But this is the retirement fight for Fedor. And Scott Coker alluded to something big or something special. Well, Frank Mir fight, the Junior Dos Santos fight, the Fabricio Verdun fight. Those have all been options that have been lingering out there. Maybe even an Andrei Arlovsky fight, a Josh Barnett fight. Those are all out there. Valentin Moldavsky is set to unify the heavyweight titles, or to appear so, with Ryan Bader. But what would be bigger than Fedor Emelianenko challenging Ryan Bader for the heavyweight title in Moscow? If I'm Bader, I want a very large payday to make that happen. If you're Bellator and you're trying to make something happen special for the fans in the Fedor retirement fight, the belt on the line, I don't know if you can get better than that. Now, also Friday night in Miami, you had Bare-Knuckle FC 22, couple of title fights. The bad blood had been boiling over all week. Now, one of the top 3 heels in all of combat sports, Lorenzo Hunt, had stolen Hector Lombard's belt. He was pounding it on tables, flipping over tables at the press conference, and still delivering on Fight Night. The decision goes in the favor of the challenger. There's a new champ. In the co-main event, and still your lightweight champion, Luis Palomino, he beats COVID, he gets back in the ring, and then he beats that win to retain his title. In controversial fashion, Britton Hart, who according to the stats landed about 20 less punches than Pearl Gonzalez and seriously walked away with more damage to her face, came away with the decision win. Gonzalez on social media afterwards reiterated the fun she had in BKFC and said that she was going to be moving on from the sport. Quite possibly you could be seeing the same for Paige Van Zandt. It's an interesting trajectory, as now you know Beck Rollins, the former BKFC women's flyweight champion, will be returning to the sport here anytime. We also had on Friday night, other side of the country, California, it was Burbank hosting LFA 118. They made weight. It seemed to be a go. The main event, women's strawweight title bout, Jacqueline Amore, Lavette Young, and unfortunately, as the telecast starts, we are informed that that fight has been canceled. The commission was not satisfied by the medicals in lead up, and unfortunately this one's canceled. Hopefully it will be rebooked. LFA still with a pair of events this year. Those details are up at cageminds.com. Hopefully we can get this women's strawweight title fight on one of those cards. The new main event, elevated from the co-main event, Askar, Leonardo Gomez, 15 minutes, high pace, but a bit better striking, a bit more damage done. The cleaner strikes landed in stuffing some takedowns. Askar back into the win column. I know that is a huge relief. He was so close to the UFC, then a setback in his return to the LFA. A move from Illinois down to Denver for the Palestinian proves Pater. In the co-main event, Ricky Ferrara, Jose Avilos. Man, Ferrara goes all Demetrius Johnson, takes the back while standing of Avilos, lifts him up into the air, does a little oop, and that is enough to lift the neck, expose the neck of Avilos, and Ferrara takes home the submission victory. It was the closest thing to Demetrius Johnson, Ray Borg that I've seen since that happened. Javier Garcia, the former featherweight title challenger, back into the win column. It's a unanimous decision win over Ryan Filligame. Garcia pressed the pace, put Filligame on the fence, busted him open, had a deep Kimura and rear naked choke, but the wrestler no quit. 3 years away and still made it to the decision. But Garcia, man, he really took his game to another level coming off of the disappointment against Souza. And women's strawweight action opened up the card. Sydney Trujillo stops and Alondria Brown in the third round, stuffing the takedowns, vicious left hooks, knees to the body, wore down Brown, and then hooks and crosses to the finish. An unrelenting aggression from Trillo. Saturday, we had UFC Fight Night, Holloway versus Rodriguez. That one got started. Well, early afternoon on the East Coast, brunch time on the West Coast, and that main event delivered. We are spoiled as UFC fans. Back-to-back weekends with Fight of the Year candidates. I still, for my money, Gaethje versus Chandler, Fight of the Year, but Holloway Rodriguez making its case. We're talking about 262 to 229 landed strikes. 5 rounds all the way to the decision. The winner, and still blessed, still your #1 contender, Max Holloway. The first round, Max's boxing looks crisp. You have huge counter shots landing from Yair, including a head kick. Cut under the eye was Rodriguez as they returned to their stools. A close round. The second round, you still had the combinations firing from Holloway. Rodriguez answering back with killer calf kicks. It looked like the leg of Holloway was swelling up, something nasty. Would he be able to continue? Both rocked, it seemed like, at points throughout those first 2 rounds. Could they continue this pace? Max, with a deep attack in the third round, starts to go to his wrestling. Looked to have been close with a head and arm choke. You get it into the 4th round, where Max is even getting deep on a guillotine. Had mount at one point. You go to the stools, and the corners are straight up with Rodriguez. Most likely, you need a finish on the cards. Go for broke. We saw some spinning kicks. We saw a tornado kick. We saw Rodriguez pushing the pace and going after it in the 5th round. We get to the judges' scorecards. I already told you, Holloway wins by decision. 3-2, 3-2, and 4-1. Talk about those scorecards. They get a bit interesting. Looking at the scorecards, Holloway 4-1. Well, I said the first round, he did cut open Rodriguez. The second round was also close. Round 3 and 4, definitely Max. Maybe you could go 4-1, because it feels like, and we can all agree, Rodriguez pushed the pace in that 5th round. Now here's the interesting part about the 3-2 scorecards, though. You have one judge going round 1, round 5, Rodriguez. You have another judge going round 2, round 5, Rodriguez. I don't want to take anything away from Max Holloway. I don't want to take anything away from either combatant. My God, what a fight, especially Rodriguez, 2 years away. The former champion proved why he defended the title, why Blessed is still considered one of the best. But there's an argument in there to say Rodriguez 48-47 is not ludicrous, because we can agree that those first 2 rounds were close, and that 5th round is definitely Rodriguez. Holloway definitely wins rounds 3 and round 4. There is some strikes landed. There were some dominant moments in round 3, and it seemed like there were points where Rodriguez was wilting. But man, he landed a takedown. He landed some vicious strikes of his own in that round. I've heard people say that round 3, could be a 10-8 round. And I say that to say, then you have some people that I've heard say this could have been a draw. Because you go round 1, round 2, obviously Rodriguez, with them being close rounds. Then you go a 10-8, a 10-9 for Holloway. You get back to round 5 for Rodriguez. We end up at a draw. This was a tremendous fight. We can't overlook it. I believe that truly when you look at the damage that was done, who was rocked more, that Holloway dictated the pace, the pressure, and was getting the better of the exchanges. That's to also say, though, there is no stock down at all for Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez still firmly cemented in the mix at 145 pounds. And with Arnold Allen and Josh Emmett not having fought for a while, you got Calvin Kattar out there. There are several options for Rodriguez, and he stays right there in the top 10. Heck, maybe at some point you even go Rodriguez Ortega down in Mexico when things open up some more. That would be a mega fight. Holloway, what do we do for Holloway? Holloway is the interesting one moving forward, because it seemed like, I felt like the obvious storyline to push is going to be Volkanovski Holloway, even though I personally am not behind that, because the champion has won 2 fights. He's won 2 decisions. I don't know if there's much more Volkanovski could do. It can't be a trilogy. Best of 3 is already over. So we're already going to a best of 5 series for a division that has a lot of talent. One of the deepest divisions in all of MMA. So going Max Volkanovski 3, you're almost, if you're the UFC, and I know the UFC doesn't like to plan for the future, supposedly, with these divisions, but you're going into that fight saying, if Holloway wins, which you're making it not just because you believe that Holloway deserves it, you're probably making it because you feel he's either a more marketable fighter or is the better fighter, and that the judges got it wrong in their rematch. Either way, though, that's a committing to, we're doing that fight 3 times in a row. You may be surprised by me saying that, but it's 2-0 Volkanovski. The best outcome for Holloway is he wins. Then you have the rematch, because now it's 2-1 Volkanovski. How does he not get a rematch immediately against Max? Max has 1 victory, he has 2. Max wins another one, now it's 2-2. We obviously have to finish the series. It has to be 3-2 for one of them. Is that the direction that the UFC really wants to go in? Max Holloway is getting older, still only 29. He cuts a lot of weight to get to 145 pounds. People believe eventually he will be a lightweight. Why don't we accelerate that pace and have a rematch? Conor McGregor says he only counts wins and losses that come from knockouts. Will he beat Holloway by decision? That is a ready-made rematch. And it seemed like the rematch that ESPN wanted to push during the broadcast, but McGregor himself even jumped in on it. That's another thing. McGregor jumps in on it. He's pacing back and forth in front of his TV. He's putting it up on social media. He's talking about his disdain for the appreciation that people have given to Max's boxing. Max being recognized as one of the best boxers in MMA. And Conor right there to throw shade that, well, Max Holloway, congratulations. First fighter to land 3,000 strikes in his UFC career. Just past this number this weekend, has also 8 the most strikes in UFC history. So Conor is right there selling the fight. It's already made. Dana White, though, not in line with his broadcasters or the people at ESPN, and he fully believes that the Volkanovski route is the way to go. Holloway himself said, hey, there's Volkanovski, there's McGregor. I even have a win over the lightweight champion, Oliveira, which is a great sentiment, but on the hindsight, in a couple weeks after UFC 269, Holloway could be sitting there saying, I have 2 losses to both the featherweight and the lightweight champion. Holloway is a big money fighter. In essence, I saw an article that normally the VIP experience to be there at the Apex for one of the fight nights is about $1,800. It went up to $3,000 for the Max Holloway fights. If you can double ticket prices, it proves how big of a star the Hawaiian is. The Hawaiian versus the Irishman, 2 big market entities, huge pay-per-view draws. How would that be bad business? I understand names like Ferguson, Diaz, Masvidal. They also have a lot of selling power. They're probably a lot safer fights for McGregor at this stage in his career. But color me excited that you could build up Max Holloway in that echelon to take his star power to another level and get him a huge payday. But it looks like the UFC wants to go with the long series, and it could be a while before we're seeing someone else fight for the featherweight title. But then again, Volkanovski pulls off the sweep, wins all three, and Max Holloway is obviously looking towards that move up 10 pounds. The co-main event, it was a quick one, 32 seconds. Marcos Rogerio de Lima knocks out Ben Rothwell. 2 calf kicks hurt Rothwell. De Lima comes in firing. Big hook knocks Rothwell back to the cage. De Lima unloads until a herky-jerky. Maybe he's going to stop it. He's in and he's out. Herb Dean finally makes contact with De Lima as Rothwell's falling into a takedown. Rothwell not happy about the stoppage. Most of us feel like it was the right call, but the herky-jerkiness and the lack of complete decision-making from Herb Dean is the story of the fight. Not to mention, because he made contact with De Lima, but then appeared to be getting out of the way. Now, it could be a 266-pound Rothwell who is getting swung a bit. You're trying to get out of the way of that battering ram. Then again, if De Lima doesn't stop and look up at Dean, is he not jumping in again and stopping the fight? He wasn't proactively involved in stopping, and it looked like another bad moment for a UFC referee. Now a great return to the octagon. Felicia Spencer puts it on Leah Letson. Letson, 2 years away, finishing her military service, coming off winning the Ultimate Fighter, is put on the cage and brutalized. Finally, in the 3rd round, taken down, beat up, and TKO'd. It was a merciful finish by the referee. 35 seconds left in the 3rd round, and battering elbows, thudding ground and pound, Felicia Spencer back in a big way. Miguel Baeza versus Chaos Williams. 2 welterweights, a lot of promise, a lot of expectation. Williams back in the win column. Baeza looking to rebound from his first loss early on. It's Baeza, killer calf kicks, trying to take away the base and the power from Chaos Williams. Firing the double calf kick in the 2nd round. Williams flurries, the right hand clips, drops couple ground and pound shots, jumping in, and Chaos Williams, that explosive power, he does it once again. That's his 3rd highlight reel knockout in the UFC. And Miguel Baeza, for someone that a lot of us were very high on, who was a technical wizard, is nearly untouchable until his defense lacks. An explosion happens to his chin. It's 2 times now that it's went from 100% defense to 0, and it's cost him in a big way. Next up, we drop down to the bantamweight division. Song Yadong coming in at number 15, looking to protect himself in the rankings against Julio Arce. Arce coming off of a great win. Yadong was coming off of a split decision. We knew about Arce, his speed, his defensive abilities. Yadong was more of a wrestler and a brawler. He lands a big right hand, follows in. It's a right high kick, another right hook for the knockdown, and the ground and pound. The power of Yadong makes the difference. Featured prelim, lightweight division, Joel Alvarez, Thiago Moises. Killer step in knees from Joel Alvarez, threatening, hitting the body right away. Moises with a big overhand right. Alvarez eating it like he doesn't even care. Lands his own, tracks down Moises, using his jab, popping and pushing Moises back. Heavy right elbows cut open Moises on the cage. It's overhand rights, over and under in the clinch from the dirty boxing. It's a 4-fight win streak for the Spaniard. Maybe he moves into the rankings. I say maybe, because he did miss weight. At 6'3" and a huge frame for 155 pounds, there can be zero tolerance on a guy who is obviously trying to exacerbate his size advantage. If he can't make weight, he can't be in the division. Flyweight division, Andrea Lee, for my money, with the best performance I've ever seen out of her and the best she's looked since coming up from the LFA. Puts in 10 minutes of work and gets the TKO of Cynthia Calvillo. Calvillo doesn't answer the bell, doesn't get off the stool in between the second to the third rounds. She had taken some big shots, was getting cracked with uppercuts, could not set up her takedowns. Lee was active with the jab, wicked with body shots. It was a great finish. You now see Andrea Lee jumping into that top 6 spot. Calvillo, it looked like she was going to be ripe for title contention, that she could be the one to push Valentina Shevchenko. It looked like that for a good while, but now things have went the other way. Andrea Lee, a huge rebound to her career. Talking about the best boxer in MMA, well, Sean Woodson wants to get there one day. His boxing is his best attribute. It was on point as he picked apart Colin Anglin, and it's the body shots, man. Those hooks to both sides. Once he clips the liver, he gets Anglin down, does it inside of the first round. Rafael Alves versus Mark DeCasey. It was a low blow early from Alves to DeCasey, and from that moment DeCasey came out hard, but he eats a jab, it sends him backing up, he then comes forward, hurt off of it, ill-timed takedown, right into a guillotine. Alves gets the submission victory, and the night opened up with Da Un Jung versus Kennedy Nzechukwu, and it's the right elbows, right elbow strikes from the onset, coming in, crashing, and then battering Nzechukwu against the cage. Jung on a 15-fight win streak after the first round knockout. Thanks for watching. CageMinds.com, again, is the website to go to. Pick up the merchandise at nmproshop.com. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Please share to your friends. Thank you for the support.